Getting occasional pushback from clients on your pricing or your contract terms is an expected part of the selling process. If you're in the early phases of your business, you have to give yourself the flexibility to negotiate. Once you've booked more consistently, you can be firmer in your terms. But even then, you may have to choose to occasionally bend to client requests when it makes sense to do so. Now, I'm no negotiation expert, but I do have some experience in this area. And in this video, I want to share with you a few tips to help you reach negotiated solutions that keep everyone satisfied. But first, let's take a look at two core concepts that are essential to any negotiation. Concept number one is that both parties need to win. Negotiation isn't about one party getting a good deal at the expense of the other party. It's really about creating a situation where both parties feel they've won. So let's take this outside of freelancing for a minute. Say you're buying a car. Your budget is $15,000, and that's the absolute maximum you can pay. But you find a Honda Accord that you absolutely love on a used car lot, and it costs $17,000. You're about to walk away because of the price difference, and then the salesperson asks you point blank what budget you're working with. And you tell them, honestly, it's $15,000. The salesperson talks to the sales manager and comes back with another offer, $16,000. However, they'll throw in a 3-year warranty for free and a year's worth of oil changes. Now, let's say you're not great with cars. You don't want to get into costly, unexpected repairs. And as you think about it, a year's worth of oil changes is also worth quite a bit to you. So now you're thinking, this is a pretty sweet deal, and you take it. In your mind, you won that negotiation, and you really did, but so did the car dealer. The dealer sold a car, and the concessions he or she made weren't that costly. In fact, those concessions were already built into the price of the car. So in their mind, they won the negotiation. But in reality, both of you won that negotiation. The dealer knew how to create a situation where both parties could leave the table feeling happy. So keep this in mind when negotiating with clients. Some clients are going to want to negotiate. Don't see that as a turnoff. Instead, look at it as an opportunity to create a situation where both sides can feel as if they got the best deal possible. Concept number two is that for every concession you make, you need to ask for something in return. Humans have an inherent need to feel like we've worked for something. So when something we get comes too easily, that thing loses value. When you make it too easy for prospects to get what they want in a negotiation, you do everyone a disservice, including yourself. You'll feel like you gave up too much, and then your resentment will build. As for the client, he'll feel like he could have gotten much more out of you because what he did get out of you was way too easy to get. And he'll wonder how much better he could have done in that negotiation. And that's not good either because you've now trained that client to keep asking for concessions every time you submit a quote. Now, keep in mind that your fee is not the only thing you can negotiate. You can also negotiate terms, date, scope of work, deposits, work volume or frequency, referrals, strategic exposure to a key set of prospects, you name it. So be open to other possibilities. And the more you know about what matters to your prospect and the more you know about what matters to you, the more creative you can get. Keeping these negotiation concepts in mind, you're going to find that when prospects ask for a lower fee, you have at least 3 ways you can respond. Option A is to agree to cut your fee, but option B is to keep your fee intact but throw in something of value. And option C is to offer to do less for less. So let's talk about these, starting with option A, agree to cut your fee, but. So this first option is to essentially agree to cut your fee, but then ask for something in return. So let's use a white paper as an example. Say you quote a prospect $3,500 for a white paper project, but she says it's too high. You ask what number she had in mind, and she replies that she's budgeted $3,000. Now, if you agree to cut your fee, you need to ask her to give you something in return. And here's the key. It doesn't have to be anything that's all that important to you. It just needs to be perceived as something she had to give up in order to get what she wanted. So instead of agreeing to cut your fee by $500 and leaving it at that, you instead ask the prospect for a concession of her own. For example, you could ask for the full payment up front. Now, I've only done that once, and not every client's going to go for that, but some will be willing to do that to get what they really want, which is, in this case, a lower fee. Something else you could do is you could ask for a larger project. For instance, if this is the first white paper in a series of 3 white papers, tell the client that you'll write all 3 white papers for $9,000 total if she's willing to cut a purchase order for the entire amount now. So essentially, you're giving her a volume discount. This is a great way to handle clients who keep promising more work down the line if you'll just take care of them now, right? We've all been there. We've all heard those promises and they rarely work out. Well, in this situation, if you offer this, now is a chance to make that happen. And finally, something else you could do here is to ask for a longer deadline. If your schedule is tight, this can be a great concession to give the client. It gives you the breathing room you need while giving her what she wants, which again is a lower fee. So that's option A. Option B is to keep your fee intact but throw in something of value. For example, you could offer to submit the draft earlier. This works particularly well when the client is in a hurry and you had initially told him that you couldn't quite meet his desired date. You could throw in some extra work for free. For instance, if you're writing the client's web copy, you could offer to help them define their new positioning or messaging. When you're hired to do web copy refresh, this is something that's going to be done anyway in most cases. So if you position it as a separate project and one that you throw in at no extra charge, you can sometimes get the deal closed at your original fee. Now, with this example, you want to look for things that don't require a ton of extra work on your part and that are natural extensions of what you're already doing for the client. So for example, you could offer to write the copy for a white paper's landing page or a short email to promote the case study that you just wrote to your client's prospects. So again, you're already neck deep in the project. Throwing in some extra copy is not going to take you that much time. But to the client, it has high perceived value. Option C is to offer to do less for less to meet the prospect's budget. This could include things such as a shorter document, fewer concepts, fewer pieces, not including social media posts, reducing support after the website launches, your support, removal of some setup or implementation components, whatever it might be. So based on the original scope of work, you're essentially cutting that back. And these are just a few examples of the kind of counteroffers you can use. I would keep these ideas handy just so you can react quickly when a situation like this arises, but don't feel like you have to limit yourself to these examples. Design creative deals that require both sides to give up something. And remember, prospects have as big a stake in these deals as you do, especially if they've already invested time walking you through their project. They need something done, and they've already spent a lot of time with you in many cases. They may not want to start all over looking for somebody else or risk going with someone who may not truly understand their industry, their customers, or their products. The bottom line here is that negotiating isn't necessarily about meeting in the middle of 2 competing numbers. It's about crafting an arrangement that meets the needs of both parties. Trust me, when you make this a give and take, everyone wins, and the client will respect you more for sticking to your guns and not giving in too easily. If this sounds a bit far-fetched, I want you to think back to our earlier car negotiating example. If the price was $17,000 for that Honda Accord and you offered $15,000, how would you feel if the salesman came back to you and said, sold, it's yours for $15,000? I bet you'll probably feel great for about 5 minutes, and then you'll wonder how much money you actually left on the table. This has been Ed Gandia with High Income Business Writing. For more tips, strategies, and advice for earning more in less time doing work you love for better clients, visit b2blauncher.com.